Hello and welcome to another free weekly PC Games Roundup. This week we only have 3 games to talk about. I thought last week was sparse. Over on Epic we do get a skin and some bonus goodies for the Firestone Online Idle RPG as an extra giveaway. Obviously pick that up if you play that game, but I'm not calling the giveaway a game for the purposes of these videos. So only one game from Epic this week. I have seen that there are changes to Amazon Luna and the games that are included, which I'll be looking into, and I'll make a separate video if it warrants it. With that said, like if you like, subscribe if you want, and let's get on with the games. So, the only game from the Epic Games Store this week, according to me, is Nightingale, Realms Rebuilt, an open world survival game free until the 9th of October. This is an early access game that was released on Steam in February 2024. It allows offline solo play as well as party play via worlds hosted by players or paid dedicated servers. It places you in an alternate Victorian world where the Fae exist and their magic. The premise is that humanity and the Fae work together to create a network of portals that allowed access to a host of different realms. Something catastrophic happened that broke the network and unleashed a deadly curse called the Pale. The only place that still stands as a haven is the city of Nightingale, which you're trying to find. Though you need to rebuild the portal network to do so. In practice, that means the opportunity to visit many different worlds, or realms as they're called here, collecting resources, researching new crafting recipes, building bases and fighting off the strange creatures that roam these areas. You have a guide in the form of the Fae called Puck, who regularly appears to point you in the right direction. He isn't the only character you'll meet, there are people in these worlds, fellow travellers of the realm that are now stuck on whatever world they found themselves in. They'll give you quests or sometimes they'll let you recruit them. Those that you recruit can be tasked with work around your base, collecting resources from structures you build, a bit like Power World, or they can follow you to help you out in the fights you'll find and to collect resources that you farm. Crafting is a major part of this game, of course, and the route to opening up new blueprints is a little different from the majority that I've played before, because I do like a good survival game. As you adventure through the different realms, you'll find the opportunity to pick up essence, glowing orbs that drop from creatures that you kill sometimes, get given as a reward for completing quests or puzzles that you find in the world, or are just floating about and need to be caught. These essences, like all of the resources, come in different tiers depending on the world that you collected it in. This ties in with the progression page from the menu, which lists the extensive range of craftable recipes that can be unlocked. Collect enough essence and you can unlock everything from within this menu or by using essence to purchase recipes from vendors. You'll need somewhere to craft though, and although some of the camps on the map will have crafting stations, it's not really feasible to carry all of your resources with you considering the limited inventory space and weight that you can carry. You build your own structures by setting down an estate cairn, which will allow you to teleport back to it from anywhere within that realm. And you can then build to your heart's content, populating it with a wide range of crafting stations, and a larger range of upgrade stations too. Here you'll make your weapons, gear and all of your tools, with those add-on stations giving your gear attribute boosts. That's not the only way you can improve your gear through crafting though. Many of the resources you find will have different properties that can be applied to your gear. The most obvious examples of this are the hides that you get from beasts you kill and have to skin. Fighting a boss creature that you can find highlighted on your map will produce a hide that has significantly higher stat boosts than your standard deer hide, for example. And when you craft, you choose which hide you use. Each required resource can have multiple viable options, so there is the opportunity to tailor your gear a little bit. At the start of the game you'll need to clear specific portals on the map to allow you to travel to new realms, but eventually you'll have the ability to create small portals of your own, and will craft realm cards that modify these realms that you travel to. And you can increase the difficulty through major and minor cards to provide higher potential rewards at a higher risk. Gear is not the only way to improve your character. Food is also an important part to boosting your power. You can cook meals from the various fish, meat and produce that you collect. And every recipe decreases your hunger level, but gives you varying boosts depending on the recipe chosen and the quality of the ingredients. That's a basic overview, because obviously this is a big complicated game and I can't do a full review here. I thought I'd move on to the reception it received, but even that is a bit tricky. The reviews from the start of the early access are not critiquing the same game, since things change a lot in early access games in 20 months, and this one specifically has done. The version we're getting includes a Realms Rebuilt update, which was a large one that changed a bunch of stuff. It removed the developers' hosting of shared worlds for starters, as well as introducing a new storyline. I'll try to pass the reviews as best I can, though bear all of this in mind. There's only 8 critics that did a review that I can see, and they didn't rate it that well, giving it a 59% according to OpenCritic. There were the usual mentions of early access bugs, but the level of bugs though was pretty high according to these reviewers. The crafting and building systems were praised, though solo players found the resource requirements tended to be a little bit over the top and needed a bit of somewhat tedious grind. Graphics and the overall setting of the story were the high points, though the need to craft towards a higher and higher gear score, using those special resources you get from higher level creatures, was not very well appreciated. Looking at the newer reviews over on Steam, this hasn't improved that much because it sits at a mix with 60% recommending it, though overall rating has 71% with recommendations. The biggest complaint people have had in the recent reviews is the removal of the co-op hosting that allowed people to play on your realm without you having to be running the game yourself or having to pay for a dedicated server. For some, the number of bugs and the poor performance optimization is too frustrating to recommend it. Those that are enjoying the game love the building and crafting, and enjoyed the story that was introduced that adds Nightingale City. A general complaint across the board is the lack of direction with the crafting system, which has a wider range of crafting stations than most survival games, and so could benefit from a bit more hand-holding or tutorial. The overall sense I'm getting from these reviews is that if you want to play solo, and the game runs okay on your rig, because optimization was a problem for many, it's a thumbs up. If you've played co-op from before the big update, you're likely to be pretty pissed about the changes, and it's harder now to organise a shared world. This was a game I was really pleased to see come out for free on Epic. I watched the creators on YouTube play it when it came out and it looked interesting. I've played for maybe 10 hours and I'm enjoying it. I can see where the game can do with more polish. Climbing in particular is very erratic and uses a system of climbing up small ledges and also using tools to climb further that I'm not a fan of. It's a sort of in-between system that doesn't work that well. The crafting system has so many different stations that initially it's pretty confusing, and I agree that it could do with more of a tutorial. The help system here is not really that great. I know what I'm doing now, and the building system seems fine. I've not built much beyond a basic structure so far, but it feels fairly solid. The mechanics, that is, not necessarily the structure. The combat plays like most other survival games. It's not the best combat in the world, but it works well enough for what it is. And it is challenging when you've gone up a tier level and you've not actually made the newer gear yet. Playing solo on my PC that so far hasn't had any crashes or major bugs, it's a good experience. I can see the need to grind out mats a bit, though that's not really different from any of the other survival games I've played. The difference is in the sheer amount of resources that you pick up that look identical but are in fact different. The essences as well, not so much a problem if you're exploring a realm like I am before you move on, but it feels like a grind if you just want to get through the story a bit quicker. And the story does try to push you, in my opinion, to the next tier very fast. I'm actually leaving this one installed, so I'm going to say I recommend it. Particularly to survival fans that play their survival games solo. For those that want to play co-op, the option's still there, but you have to host and play on someone's PC or pay for a dedicated server. If you do pick this up, remember that this is still in early access and will have bugs and things that don't work quite the way they should. But for me, enough was working to live up to the expectations I had, so I'm quite happy with this one. Our first game from Prime is Tormented Souls, a Resident Evil Silent Hill inspired horror adventure game, available through the Amazon Game Launcher until the 3rd of December. It's an over 18 game and it drops you right into gore and nudity, so be aware of that if you want to pick this one up. I'll be avoiding showing any of that for YouTube reasons, so I'm sorry or you're welcome depending. You play Caroline Walker, who travels to a hospital to research the disappearance of 2 twin girls. Things go wrong immediately and you find yourself straight in the action, missing an eye. It's a fixed perspective horror game like the early Resident Evil games, though much better looking. You're presented with puzzles that stop your progress, and you'll need to figure out how to use a combination of clues on documents, around the environment and various objects that you can pick up and store in your inventory to solve them and move forward. That's not all there is to get around though, of course. There's strange mutated people monsters that roam the halls and will happily claw you to death if you don't prevent them by using your staple gun or crowbar to gently persuade them to die. Like the old school Silent Hill games, you have a health meter that you'll need to keep an eye on, though you use morphine injections to heal rather than health drinks and non-specific syringes. Not much of a distinction there, to be fair. Items you pick up are stored in your inventory, letting you select and use an item, and items like a lighter or your weapons need to be specifically equipped before you can use them. Talking of weapons, the combat is slow, with Caroline auto-aiming when an enemy gets close, and carefully firing off shots, or carefully, slowly preparing to strike with her crowbar. The fixed camera will often end up with you shooting at something you can't see, so the auto-aim is a must. Saving your progress mirrors Resident Evil system, though here you're using an audio reel on a tape recorder rather than an ink ribbon on a typewriter. So inventive. It does seem to be an out-and-out Resi-clone. It even has the option to use the tank control system from the early games if you want to wallow in nostalgia. Still, copying Resident Evil is not necessarily a bad thing if done right. So the question is, did they? Almost. It sits at a 75 for PC on Metacritic and a 74 for all platforms on OpenCritic. The atmosphere of the game was generally praised, with people enjoying the look of the hospital and the horror element. Most of the puzzles were considered well designed, with a few poorly designed or some were nonsense according to one reviewer, which is a common hazard in these adventure games. The sound design was praised and the voice acting was not. The story was unfortunately not considered very strong, and the writing was criticised across even the most positive reviews. Of course, the negative reviews felt that these issues impacted the game more than those that enjoyed it, and also pointed out that the game didn't try to improve on the 20-year-old formula beyond better graphics, with all of the frustration of switching between fixed camera angles that makes movement more confusing still there. The lack of tapes to save was also mentioned too, meaning you have limited opportunities to save, often resulting in significant amounts of replaying, or, in my case, sometimes just walking away from the game for a while in frustration. It was better received on Steam, sitting at a very positive, with 86% of people recommending it. They also mentioned the obtuseness of some of the puzzles, the bad voice acting and the mediocre story, pretty much across the board, but their love for the old style Resident Evil or Silent Hill games carried them through, probably riding a wave of nostalgia. It appears to be a 10 or so hour game, with a lot of people saying they resorted to a walkthrough to solve some of the more esoteric puzzles. So if you don't do that, expect that 10 hours to move up a fair bit. I've played for a couple of hours and this old soul gameplay just isn't for me. The atmosphere is great, but I just don't like fighting creatures that I can't see that are going to kill me, because I'm pretty bad at this game, and redoing the last half hour of gaming because I've not managed to get back to save point with my only tape reel isn't working. I could keep playing until I work out how to fight properly, obviously, but that will take more time replaying the same bit of game over and over, and I'm not up for that, to be honest. It's not feeling fun to me. I can see the appeal for people that have the experience and skills with the older Resi or Silent Hill games. I've never played them, so I lack both the ability and the nostalgia for them. I can't really comment on the puzzles. I've not got far enough into the game, though the overwhelming opinion is that some are just too obscure. However, plenty of people say that the good puzzles and the atmosphere make up for the downsides. So if you like the original Resident Evil games and Silent Hill games, then you probably want to pick this one up and see if it works for you too. Maybe just keep a walkthrough handy. The other game from Prime and the last for this video is the D&D classic DragonStrike, available via the Good Old Game Store until the 5th of November. This is a D&D spin on aerial combat / flight simulator, kind of, with you taking on the role as a low-level dragon rider, happy to risk your life and your dragons to gain reputation while you win a war against the enemy, the evil dragon armies that are not described in any more detail than that. I took a look at the Prime description to see what they referred to it as, and the line "features a detailed fractally generated 3D world" leaped out as a very blatant lie. It really isn't detailed. It came out 35 years ago, which is fair enough for the time, but that's no reason to lie now, Amazon. You take on 20 missions, roughly, that vary between aerial battles with other dragons, low-level flight through a canyon, or strafing archery encampments. They're the ones I've done so far. You fight with a breath weapon that you control, and your dragon will attack automatically with claws and bites. You also have a lance that you can position, but I can't figure it out. Even reading the manual, it doesn't really describe how to use it to fight properly. Both you and your dragon have your own hit points, with the rider only being vulnerable to attack from above, or breath weapons, and the dragon just generally being attackable. You're equipped with a few things: a crystal ball, which is basically radar, a magic arrow that gives you a pointer to where your enemy is, and 3 hits of a healing salve, which only heals a small amount and doesn't actually get refreshed for several missions. At the start of each one, though, you're shown the world map, most of which is controlled by the evil dragon armies at the beginning, and which you're going to need to win back. As you progress through the missions, you earn new magic items, and can also get offers to join different factions at a couple of points that will give you access to a different set of missions, and different dragons. Outside of this, the game is a flight combat sim, with speed, banking and climbing diving controls. Here's a control page just to show you how streamlined and simple it all is. You can rebind keys if you can figure out a layout that works better for you, and the mouse can be used, though it's not enabled by default. I got that from the Steam review, so I stuck with keyboard and I got used to it by the time I found out. You kill the bad people, win the day, become a High Lord. Very, very simple. Except it's an old game from the beginning of the 90s. Of course it's not simple. Of course it gets difficult. There's no critic reviews as usual, so let's take a look at the 23 reviews on Steam. They rated it a positive, with 95% of people doing so, which is overwhelmingly positive, no? Anyway, lots of nostalgia in the comments. Always going to be with these older games. I say the word nostalgia a lot, do not play a drinking game with it. The positives they ascribe to the game are couched in a lot of excuses about the game's age. I've played for 3 hours, and there are obviously issues with a game this old. The control system, playing on the keyboard, was fine because I just ignored the lance. Might even be easier with a mouse. That does seem to be recommended in Steam reviews a little bit though. The biggest issue though is the FPS, which is slow enough to respond to your input that it makes dogfighting a real pain. Judging turns is also hard because the graphics lag so far behind your key presses, you don't really know when to straighten out a lot of the time. It's something that you can get used to a degree though. Normally the graphics being so old wouldn't be a problem for me, but there was a mission that had me flying through a ravine or canyon, and it was near impossible to judge what was a solid wall and where a path through was because of the graphics. There is an ongoing story and the choices you make are a fun idea, so that part of the game actually works quite well. There have also been a varied set of missions so far, even in 3 hours, which I've appreciated. The game controls and the mechanics take a bit of getting used to, and I've had to restart many times, so it's not actually easy. It's not that uncommon to get one shot, but generally the game hasn't felt unfair. I changed faction and the first mission I got was a huge jump up in difficulty, so it's still not easy by any means. I wouldn't say I'm eager to play this game anymore, but I also didn't dislike my time playing DragonStrike. I don't think I'd have played as much as I did if I wasn't reviewing it though. It's hard to recommend these very early games for people that don't have nostalgia for them. There is some enjoyment of the game here though if you do pick it up. You just need to do a little bit of work to get into the game. Okay, that's all for this week. I'm kind of expecting a much bigger week next week, which is just as well because a hospital visit this week is going to make this difficult to get out on time. But with 3 games, I think I can do it. Please do give me a like if you enjoyed the video and consider subscribing to get more of these videos as they come out each week. With that said, thanks for watching and I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.